everybody, I'm Joshua Orro, the Mustang Prince, and welcome to Mustang Prince Orro Reports. In my last episode, I blogged the animated Snow White movie, Happily Ever After, which may have been a Disney knockoff at the time, but nowadays, I think it's an underrated animated follow-up to the classical Grimm Brothers fairy tale. However, for today's episode, let's talk about another fairy tale princess that I've talked about before on my show, Cinderella. Like Snow White, Cinderella needs no introduction, and in the past, I've looked at 3 different Cinderella films, like Happily Never After, Rodgers and Hammerstein's Cinderella from 1997, and Disney's live-action remake from 2015. By the way, ever since 2022 began, I kind of had this weird idea that I should look back at Disney's animated Cinderella trilogy. Well, on one hand, I know it may sound like I'm going to copy my friend Scott's style of blogging, since he likes to look at older films before blogging newly released adaptations, but at the same time, by looking at my movie library, there are several films that I think deserve a full blog on my show, so why not? So anyway, let's start with the first movie, released on March 4th, 1950, Cinderella. Now, let's get started. Cinderella, the beautiful and kind-hearted daughter of a wealthy aristocrat, sees her world turned upside down when her beloved mother dies, and her pained widowed father remarries another woman, the wicked Lady Tremaine, who has 2 equally cruel daughters about Cinderella's age, the jealous Anastasia and Drizella. But, once more, things will go from bad to worse when Cinderella's father too passed away, leaving her all alone in the lady's evil clutches to serve as her maid-of-all-work. Under those circumstances, a shabby and neglected Cinderella doesn't stand much of a chance of attending the king's royal ball, let alone captivate the handsome Prince Henry, unless she turns to her loving fairy godmother, who has quite a few tricks up her sleeve. Nevertheless, will the wronged damsel ever find peace, and with it, her own Prince Charming? So, what are my thoughts on this movie? Well, in my opinion, this is a classical animated Disney film during Walt Disney's time, and trust me, I've loved this film ever since my infant years. And to further explain why I love it, let's move on to Mustang notes. During the early 1940s, Walt Disney Productions was suffering financially after losing connections to the European film markets due to the outbreak of World War II. Because of this, the studio endured box office bombs such as Pinocchio, Fantasia, and Bambi, all of which would later become more successful with several re-releases in theaters and on home video. By 1947, the studio was over $4 million in debt and was on the verge of bankruptcy. To restore the studio back to its full financial health, Walt expressed his desire to return to producing full-length animated films. By then, 3 animated projects, Cinderella, Alice in Wonderland, and Peter Pan, were in development. However, Disney felt that the characters in Alice in Wonderland and Peter Pan was too cold, while Cinderella contained elements similar to Snow White and greenlit the project. The movie's directors included Wildred Jackson, Hamilton Luske, and Clyde Geronimi. By early 1948, Cinderella had progressed further than Alice in Wonderland and was fast-tracked to become the first full-length animated film since Bambi. During a story meeting on January 15, 1948, the cat and mouse sequences began to grow into an important element in the movie, so much so that Disney placed veteran story artist Bill Peet in charge of the cat and mouse segments. Production for the film was finished by October 13, 1949. Also to note, in 2018, the film was selected for preservation in the United States National Film Registry by the Library of Congress as being culturally, historically, or authentically significant. Also, aside from getting a live-action remake, Cinderella got 2 direct-to-video sequels. She had an appearance in Sophia the First, Ralph Breaks the Internet, Epic Mickey Power of Illusions, and the Kingdom Hearts game series. Now, what are my thoughts on the animation? Well, in my opinion, this style of hand-drawn animation is absolutely classical, mainly due to it being provided by Walt's 9 old men, whom I still believe are legends in animation history. Also, I find it interesting that they used live-action references just like they previously did for Snow White, Pinocchio, and Fantasia. Not only does the character animation look absolutely timeless, but I also like the look of the Tremaine Chateau where Cinderella lives and the King's Palace where the royal ball takes place at. And since this story was written by Charles Perrault, whom was a French author, I think it makes sense that the movie takes place in France. Also, aside from the cat and mouse chase scenes, there are other memorable moments, like the part where Cinderella feeds the animals, and I also thought the chase scene where Cinderella tries to get home after the clock strikes midnight felt really intense ever since my childhood. Also, I must let everybody know that this wouldn't be a Disney princess movie without classical and catchy songs. The first song to talk about is A Dream is a Wish Your Heart Makes, sung by Cinderella, while she encourages her animal friends to never stop dreaming. In my opinion, this song feels very optimistic and sweet, and I just like how it teaches all of us how important it is just to believe and always have faith. Also, I like the reprise versions that are sung during the scenes where the birds and mice are fixing up Cinderella's dress, which used to belong to her biological mother, and during the finale where Cinderella and Prince Henry are married and they ride off to their happily ever after. Plus, I must mention that this song is hummed by Cinderella during Ventus's visit to the Castle of Dreams in Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep. Our next song is Sing Sweet Nightingale, which is a dream song sung by Cinderella while she's scrubbing the floors of the chateau's entrance hall. In my opinion, this is another sweet song in the film due to the visuals of Cinderella's reflections in the soap bubbles, and I think it makes up for the awful version performed by Anastasia and Drizella during their music lesson. Sadly, this song gets ruined courtesy of Lucifer making the floors dirty with dust. Next we come to the work song, sung by Jock, Gus, and the other mice. This is one of my favorite songs in the entire movie, and I really love how it builds up. You see, it starts with Jock lamenting how it'll be impossible for Cinderella to go to the ball due to her heavy workload. But then, one of the other mice gets the idea for them to fix up Cinderella themselves while she's working, and then surprise her later that evening. Next is the Fairy Godmother's song, Bibbidi-Bobbidi-Boo, which is sung while Fairy Godmother transforms a pumpkin into a coach, the mice into horses, Major into a coachman, Bruno into a footman, and she gives Cinderella a new gown. In my eyes, while it is sung for about 48 seconds, this is one of the most memorable songs in the entire movie, and one of the most classical during Walt Disney's time. And sometimes, even while playing through the Castle of Dreams level in Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep, I just can't help but sing along to it. Lastly, we come to the movie's love song, So This Is Love, sung by Cinderella and Prince Henry as they dance throughout the castle during the ball. In my eyes, not only is this a classical and simple romance song, but it makes a sweet montage song. I mean, while the song may last for about a minute and a half, I think in reality, Cinderella and Henry may have been together for about 3 hours. Not only are they dancing, but they're also exploring the garden and walking along a bridge. Plus, during that moment, they might have been talking and getting to know each other without revealing who they were to one another. But that's just a theory anyway. And now let's move on to the characters and their voice actors. Our main character, Cinderella, is voiced by Eileen Woods, who'd later act in 1972's The Godfather. In my opinion, like Snow White, Cinderella is another classical Disney princess, And despite the fact that she's been abused and humiliated while forced to be a servant in her own home, I like the fact that she's cheerful, kind, and helpful, especially to the many animals that she makes friends with. Also, like Princess Tiana from The Princess and the Frog, Cinderella is a hard worker. Also, while her biological mother's dress is very pretty, I think the ball gown that Fairy Godmother gives her is really gorgeous. Next we have Cinderella's mice friends, Jock and Gus, both voiced by Disney sound effects head Jimmy McDonald. Jock is a fearless and smart mouse who acts as the leader of the household mice, while Gus is a slow-witted and new mouse who Jock takes under his wing. To me, these two steal the whole show for me due to them supporting Cinderella, like when they gather a ribbon and jade beads for Cinderella's dress, when they become horses and pull Cinderella's coach to the palace, and when they rescue Cinderella by stealing the key to the attic and rushing it up to her room. Also, I must mention that I really love how the mice talk, using a broken form of English called Mouse Latin, where they use such unique words like zug zug. Cinderella's other animal friends include her dog Bruno, several birds, and her horse Major. In my opinion, I think these animals are also great supporting characters throughout the movie. For example, the birds are usually seen helping Cinderella make her bed and help her get ready every morning, and they also help the mice fix up Cinderella's dress. Bruno is an understanding, smart, and loyal dog who kind of has the same personality as Pluto, and he helps Cinderella by becoming a footman, and when he saves Gus by chasing Lucifer out the window. And I think Major is a distinguished horse who only supports Cinderella by becoming a coachman, and at the end of the movie, Major becomes a proud leader of the palace horses. Next is Cinderella's evil stepmother, Lady Tremaine, voiced by Eleanor Audley, who would later voice my childhood nightmare Maleficent in Sleeping Beauty and Madame Leota from the Haunted Mansion ride. Lady Tremaine is a cold-hearted and cruel woman who, along with her awkward daughters, is jealous of Cinderella's charm and beauty, kind of like Snow White's stepmother, Queen Grimhilda. To me, while she was fair and generous to let Cinderella go to the ball by order of the king's invitation on the condition that she gets her work done, I thought it was pretty mean of her to punish and abuse her psychologically. However, I thought her cruelest moments was when she locks Cinderella in the attic, trips the castle herald, and shatters her glass slipper to pieces. Next are Lady Tremaine's daughters, Anastasia and Drizella, voiced by Lucille Bliss and Rhoda Williams. To me, Drizella is snarky, greedy, and she has a terrible singing voice, while Anastasia is selfish, spoiled, and her flautist skills are really, really off-key. Throughout the movie, both of them like to bully and order Cinderella around, and I thought their meanest moment was when they tear Cinderella's dress while accusing her of stealing their materials. This is Lucifer, Lady Tremaine's cat, vocalized by the late voice acting queen June Foray. According to Jock, Lucifer is a mean, sneaky cat who is cruel to Cinderella. He likes to sabotage her bloodhound dog Bruno, and he constantly pursues the chateau's mice in attempts to devour them. Also, Lucifer did unintentionally get Cinderella into some trouble by leaving Gus underneath Anastasia's teacup. Next up is Cinderella's fairy godmother, voiced by Verna Felton, whom was Flora in Sleeping Beauty, the Queen of Hearts in Alice in Wonderland, Aunt Sarah in Lady and the Tramp, Mrs. Jumbo from Dumbo, and Winifred in The Jungle Book. Fairy Godmother is one of my favorite characters in this whole movie, next to Jock and Gus. What I like about her is that she's a physical embodiment of hope, and she's a kind-hearted fairy who appears only to those who believe in their dreams. Also, I think she has the personality of a loving grandmother, in a way. Also, aside from helping Cinderella by giving her a new gown and a pumpkin coach, I like that she's been magically watching over Cinderella for some time now. Also, I must mention that nowadays, during the Kingdom Hearts game series, Fairy Godmother is helping Riku and Kairi during their search for Sora. Next we have the King and the Grand Duke, both voiced by Louis Van Rooten. The King is a short-tempered yet benevolent ruler who desperately hopes to see the day that his son marries and has kids of his own. And the Grand Duke is the King's prim yet fussy right-hand man who is charged with overseeing imperial matters, such as trying to help Prince Henry find a bride and trying the glass slipper on every maiden in the kingdom. Finally, we come to the King's son, Prince Henry, voiced by William Edward Phipps. Like Prince Ferdinand from Snow White, Henry doesn't really have a big role in this movie, mainly due to him having a long absence before returning home. When his dad, the King, throws a ball in his honor, Henry is not impressed by both the maidens and his father's attempt to match him up, until he spots Cinderella and dances with her. But after Cinderella flees from the castle, leaving only a glass slipper behind, Henry vows to use said slipper to find and marry his true love. Also, I must mention that Prince Henry was going to appear in a scene that took place after Cinderella's foot fit the slipper, where Cinderella was to be brought to the castle, and after being reunited with Henry, the two embrace. Sadly, that moment was cut because Walt Disney felt it was a bit overlong and did not give the audience its payoff. But thankfully, that scene was later incorporated in Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep. And now let's move on to my final words. Overall, Walt Disney's Cinderella is truly a classical animated fairy tale. The animation is timeless and enchanting. Cinderella makes a kind, brave, optimistic, and faithful Disney princess, and I'm really happy that she's been able to help every Disney fan believe in their dreams. Plus, the mice Jock and Gus are fun supporting characters, the voice acting is legendary, the songs are classical Disney tunes, and after watching this movie again, I can understand that this film truly did save Walt Disney's animation studio after the World War II era. And I thought it was a fantastic movie to begin the Disney Silver era. And so, it gives me great honor to award this movie with the highest rating of 100%. Well, that's all for now. Be sure to join me next time as we take a look at Cinderella's first direct-to-video sequel. Until then, to be continued.